right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Contractors webinar. My name is Jacob Cole, marketing coordinator here at CID. Teresa Cochran is our commercial underwriter, and we'll be presenting this webinar for you. But really quickly, I wanted to go over the logistics of the webinar. So as you can tell, you're all muted, but there is a chat option for you to type in your questions. So be sure to ask your questions at any point throughout the webinar. I'll make sure Teresa answers them for you. Once we're done, there's going to be a short 3-question survey. This is the best way for you to give us feedback so we can improve these webinars for you. So any advice or feedback you can give us, or even future webinar topics you want to see, be sure to let us know. And without further ado, I'll pass it off to Teresa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. The objectives of today's webinar are to learn how to easily identify the types of contractors, find out how to gather the important the important underwriting criteria for contractors, recognize the full scope of coverages needed for contractors, and understand how contractors are rated and what affects the premium. I believe most of us know whom general contractors are, but some of you may not be familiar with the term artisan contractor. Here is a short list, but definitely not an all-inclusive list, of the different artisan contractor trades. I really didn't pull these at random. These are kind of our core group of contractors that we see a lot of these types of contractors across my desk. You'll notice things like plumbing, they're not on here. Plumbing is a really high rate. It is something we can write, but we're probably not very competitive on that type of trade. So please note that most artisan contractors specialize in 1 to 3 trades. So let's say a contractor calls you up for a quote. What types of questions do you think you should be asking to not only pre-qualify them as a good account to go after, but also to understand what their business is? These are also questions that are running through my head when I'm looking over a new submission to see if it's something my carriers have an appetite for. What types of trades are they performing? Are they licensed? Each state is different, but in California, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, you need to be licensed for most trades. But maybe in your state, a plumber, electrician, or a landscaper doesn't need to be licensed. This is an easy thing to research online through your contractor state licensing department. If they are supposed to be licensed, but they haven't gotten around to obtaining the license, then it would be best to pass on the account, since most carriers will require them to be licensed. This would not be something we would quote for you because our carriers do follow state licensing requirements. Okay, the next thing we need to know is the size of their operation. Is the owner the only worker? How many owners are there? What are their annual sales and employee payroll? If they hire subcontractors, what is the annual subcontractor cost? These questions are very important because this is how the carrier will rate the risk, and some carriers will audit these accounts at the end of the policy term. So please help the customer understand that they need to be as accurate as possible with these figures, and make sure to ask, are those subcontractors insured? If the subcontractors are not insured, some carriers may pass on the risk, while others may allow you to include them under employee payroll. If the subcontractors have their own insurance and the sub-costs are 40% or more of your client's operation, then we would be looking to write them under the the General Contractors Program, rather than under the Artisan Contractors Program. It is a misconception to believe that when your client has a general contractor's license, that they're going to be rated as a general contractor. My markets mainly rely on annual sales and subcontractor costs to determine if we are rating a risk under the Artisan Contractors Program or the General Contractors Program. A few other questions to ask is, are they performing new construction, remodeling, or both? Are these being performed for commercial and/or residential clients? We have carriers for both new construction and remodeling, whether it be commercial or residential. But these answers will help determine which markets we can go to. Also, knowing if they have had prior coverage, are a new venture, or maybe they've been operating without coverage. This information will help determine if we have a market available. For instance, it is tough to find a market to write new construction townhomes, condos, tract homes, condos, and townhomes, and concrete foundation work. So if they are a new venture or have been operating without coverage, it's going to make them even harder to place, and it may not be the best risk to go after. I understand it's hard to pass on a client, but we're all really busy and need to be efficient with our time. So contacting several different wholesalers to find a market for a hard to place risk without prior coverage may not be the best idea. But if they have had coverage, it may be easier to find a carrier that will consider those hard to place risks. So the more information you can pull from your client, the better, because it will help you and I figure out if this is something we have a market for, and it'll make the process of quoting go even faster. I put a few examples together of different types of contractors that we can go through. The first one I have is a smaller risk, where the owner is the only worker, so he does not have any employees and no subcontractors are used. He is an HVAC worker installing heating and air conditioner units into new homes. He's had a lapse in coverage, so he's currently without insurance, and the general contractor that he will start working for is requiring him to get coverage. This means that they have a contract together. So as their agent, you would want to obtain a copy of this contract so you know exactly what coverages your client needs, in addition to any additional insured endorsements that may be required. Receiving a copy of this contract will help to avoid any last-minute quote revisions. I can't tell you how many times I release a quote and a broker will come back to me with general liability limit changes or needing to add a special wording additional insured endorsement. Let's try to be efficient and know ahead of time what is being required so you only need to present one quote to your client with everything they need. As you are looking through the insurance requirements, you see that they need $1 million per $2 million aggregate general liability limits with primary and non-contributory wording, a waiver of subrogation, a completed operations endorsement, and additional insured in favor of the general contractor. These special wording endorsements are pretty standard nowadays, so most carriers will be able to offer them to your client. There may even be a contractor's bundle or an extension endorsement that includes these special wording endorsements. It varies by carrier. Some carriers may not be able to offer the completed operations endorsement due to the new residential construction exposure. So if you have any questions on endorsements, always feel free to reach out to see if it's something that our markets can accommodate. And just a reminder, please type any questions you have into the chat room. I will answer them throughout the webinar. The second example I have is one owner with $86,000 in employee payroll, $35,000 in insured subcontractor costs, and $250,000 in annual sales. They have a general contractor's license, which is great that they are licensed. However, like I mentioned before, the subcontractor costs must be 40% or more of your client's operation in order to be considered under the general contractor's program with most carriers. Due to their annual sales being $250,000 and sub costs at $35,000, we would consider this risk under the Artisan Contractors Program. This client let us know that they have had no prior coverage, which is fine. We write these all the time. They are offering residential kitchen and bathroom remodeling services. We made sure they listed out all the trades that they are performing and noted that all plumbing work is subcontracted out to an insured subcontractor. It's very important to list out all the trades that the artists and contractors are performing because that is really going to help when wholesalers and carriers are rating the risk for you. Using a contractor's application while collecting information from your client will help with gathering all the necessary info for rating. So the customer tells us they are looking to obtain $1 million per, $2 million aggregate general liability limits with a blanket waiver of subrogation and blanket additional insured endorsement in favor of their clients. This is all very standard and a risk we can definitely offer terms for. Now let's switch over to the general contractors. As I've mentioned, most carriers require general contractors to subcontract at least 40% of the work being performed. The questions you want to ask the client are similar to the questions we went through earlier in the webinar. How many owners are there? What are their annual sales and subcontractor costs? Do they have employees? Is your client licensed? Are the subcontractors that are being hired licensed? Or are they adding our client as an AI onto their commercial policy? Are they involved in new construction, remodeling, commercial, or residential work? Have they had coverage? Are they shopping around? Any lapse in coverage, or are they a new venture? All these will help determine what carriers are available to them and if we have the right market to take them to. And here's a general contractor example where there are 3 owners, no employees, $1.5 million in insured subcosts, with annual sales at $3 million. We are at 50% in subcontractor costs, so we can definitely consider them under the GC program. They have a few years of prior coverage and are doing a mixture of new and remodeling residential work and remodeling commercial work. They're looking to get $1 million per, $2 million aggregate GL limits with a blanket waiver of subrogation and blanket AI endorsement for their clients. They also need $1 million in excess liability and would like business personal property coverage for supplies stored at their warehouse and inland marine coverage for a few large pieces of equipment and miscellaneous tools that they take with them to different job sites. It would be nice to have all these coverages with one carrier, but you'll probably end up presenting 2 or 3 quotes in order to cover all these exposures, because the carriers that offer GL coverage may not offer the excess coverage or inland marine and so on. These are all coverages that we can help you place. It just may be through a few different markets. The previous example was looking for property coverage. It may not be something you thought contractors would need, but most contractors do own tools and equipment that they carry with them to different job sites. Here are some property coverages that you may want to offer to your artisan and general contractors. Contractors' equipment provides coverage for machinery, equipment, and tools, as well as mobile agricultural equipment and machinery. Some types of equipment include tractors, front-end loaders, bulldozers, tools, and other equipment that is mobile. We can go up to $250,000 per item and up to $1 million per schedule. We can offer up to $50,000 for miscellaneous tools and equipment and $250,000 in coverage for rented and borrowed equipment. There is also inland marine installation coverage that is important when your client is trying to cover machinery, equipment, and materials that are kept on the job site or at another location close to the job site that is fenced in during the course of installation, renovation, or repair. You see this a lot during ground-up construction, where there's a fenced-in lot and you can see bulldozers and stacks of building supplies. That's when you would want to recommend installation coverage for your client. Some important things to remember are that most contractor claims occurred occur as a result of work performed, which is why it is important for them to carry general liability coverage. While the contractor's faulty work may not be insurable under the GL coverage form, the resulting damage from their faulty work is covered for bodily injury and property damage. So if your client repaired something incorrectly, the carrier is not going to pay to fix the poor workmanship, but they will cover the resulting damage from the faulty work. For instance, if the contractor clipped a water line which caused a flood, the carrier would cover the resulting water damage from the flood, but the contractor would be responsible for fixing the water line. Or an HVAC worker installed an air conditioner, and after it was running for a few hours, water started leaking from the unit, causing damage to the AC unit and water damage to the surrounding area. The water damage would be covered, but the contractor would be responsible for repairing the AC unit. If you are looking to also cover their faulty work, some carriers are now offering errors and omissions as an optional coverage, and it's usually not too expensive, typically around $150 for a $25,000 limit. This is a great coverage to add, if available, in order to fill that faulty work coverage gap. So if you
Teresa,
have
there's
any
one
submissions,
question.
oh,
Sorry.
absolutely.
Sorry to cut you off.
No problem.
It looks like they asked, is there an exclusion for theft on the miscellaneous tool coverage?
So it definitely will vary by carrier. But with my main market, there is no theft exclusion depending on how those tools are stored. If they're stored inside of the building, and if they are stored inside of a locked vehicle, there typically is not going to be a theft exclusion for those miscellaneous tools. Okay. So if you do have any submissions you would like to send over, please email them to submissions@cidinsurance.com. If they need general liability coverage, we would be looking for an Accord 125, 126, a contractor's supplemental application, and loss runs if they have them. If you do not have a contractor's supplemental application, we do have one available on our company website at CIDinsurance.com. This application can be used for both general contractors and artisan contractors. And if you already have a contractor's supplemental completed, by all means, send that over. I'll try to work off of whatever you already have completed. And if they need coverage for mobile tools and equipment, we would need a contractor's equipment application completed, which is also available on our website. And if they need coverage for business personal property, we would need an Accord 140 completed. Any other questions, Jacob?
I don't see any, but oh, it looks like one just came in. Someone's just asking how many carriers we have and if they're all admitted. How many carriers for contractors? And if they're all admitted or non-admitted.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So right now, we really don't have any admitted markets for contractors. Most of our admitted markets are not writing contractors. I'm hoping that one or two of them will start opening up again in the next few months. And we have, off the top of my head, probably 5 or 6 different contractor markets we can look at. It just depends on what state the risk is in.
Gotcha. Okay, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to chat them in now. Obviously, you can see Teresa's email there. If we miss your question, someone did ask, what is considered a small contractor, a small artisan contractor?
Oh, maybe someone that's an owner only, or maybe an owner and one employee. I just mean, it's a smaller type of risk, not a lot of sales. but we can write the small and the large ones.
Perfect. So if you guys haven't already checked out our website, we have tons of different tools beyond just our webinars. We have applications for all of the risks that we write. We have marketing flyers you can customize with your agency information, tons of educational videos to train your office on commercial insurance. We have online quoting tools, proposal templates, and of course our webinars. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a short survey pop up. So it's your opportunity to help us improve our webinars and so you and your office get the best training possible. But I think that's it for our webinar today. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Have a great day.